It all began one peaceful evening when I made the decision to go all out with my mother. Upstairs, immersed in one of her never-ending phone conversations, the home seemed to be exclusively ours. In the living room, I sprang onto Dad's lap, muttering absurd secrets into his ear. "Stop," he said. He asserted that it was still dangerous. He kissed me back after I kissed him. In the exact home where I pleaded for bedtime tales while playing with dolls. As though he were my lover, I gave my father a kiss. He pulled my clothing apart and threw me into the bed. I encircled his waist with my legs. Yearning for more, he gently massaged my hole with his finger as he reached inside my pants. I was totally absorbed in the moment. I couldn't remember where I was. The emotions were incredible. I had to go for it since it was the high point of my life. He struck me so forcefully, as though he had been anticipating this day for ages. I'm Celeste, and I daringly grab anything I want. This is the account of how I put the inconceivable to the test. Moreover, if you're new here, welcome back to my channel. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new. Click the notification bell and press like. Hello, recurring subscribers. Thank you for stopping by. Let's get started. I grew up in a comfortable palace. Not the usual castle with golden thrones and stone towers, yet a chic Chicago suburban stronghold with gleaming flooring. A walk-in closet bigger than most bedrooms and high-end furnishings. Vera and Dorian constructed everything for me. I was presented with everything on a silver platter. Vacations with phones, I received anything I desired. I didn't have to work for anything. I only needed to pout or grin and everything came into place. Perhaps that's where it began. The notion that anyone may be mine, even him, perhaps too much school, was no exception. Teachers gave me higher grades than I deserved. The lads looked up to me. The females were envious of me. I was able to control a room. Changing the mood with a simple touch or whisper, I wasn't ashamed of it. I yearned for power and relished every second of it. It was a very different story at home. More dangerous Dad was always admiring. He looked tall and classic, powerful arms, and a velvety, gravelly voice. He prospered in finance after coming home. Radiating achievement as a child, he would call me his girl and swirl me around. I would chuckle and melt in his arms. But once I reached 18, everything changed. His embraces felt different and lasted longer, as though he was no longer merely holding his daughter. I noticed stuff. His eyes remained fixed. I was just wearing a shirt when I walked into the kitchen. His hands were on my shoulder for much too long. He never went too far. Always remained inside the lines. I could sense the tension in the air, the fascination. He seemed to question who I would become. Nor was I. Mom was always moving. Frequently attending charity events, yoga classes, and meals with girlfriends. She genuinely loved me. I believe she had a little too much faith in me. Perhaps she simply trusted her father too much. Over time, the house became ours, me and him alone. Perhaps I first imagined it, perhaps not, but it started with a small spark. I would go around in tight shorts. When grabbing anything up, bend too much. Find out whether he thinks my new outfit makes me appear beautiful. At first he would only chuckle. He shook his head and pretended that I was being absurd. His eyes flickered and I saw it. His breath caught as I walked by him in the corridor. Then it dawned on me. He was in agreement with him. The boundary that we were never supposed to cross. Already everything was a blur. I walked into the living room one evening, wearing just his button-down shirt. He read a book while lounging on the couch. I pretended it didn't happen. Grabbed a Coke from the refrigerator and settled down next him. His body tensed as he averted his eyes from mine. I tucked my legs beneath me. "What's up, Celeste? You ought to put something there." He stated. Why did I cock my head? I've worn a swimsuit before and I'm fainting with innocence. That is distinct. I leaned forward but got no answer. Got up and ran out the room. That one was quite alluring. I waited for my mother to leave for her spa trip for the weekend. The second time, everything was arranged to wine music. In low light, I asked my dad to join me for a movie. "I miss our time together," I remarked. He seemed nervous and wary when he sat next to me. I laughed too loudly. I reached forward to refill his glass, brushing against his knee. In the middle of the film, I rested on his shoulder. I could feel his body buzzing beneath my cheek like a live wire. "You're intoxicated," he said, not prime lit. He was so happy that he sprang to his feet and went to bed. One more failure. However, on the third try, he was breaking down the daring maneuver. Feelings on a Sunday morning. Mom was at church, so I assumed Dad would be reading a book in the den. I walked in, wearing only a transparent tank top and lace panties. It was almost transparent. I took hold of his coffee mug and bent over to give it to him. I chimed joyfully in the morning. He looked up and came to a complete halt. His eyes moved over my body. He closed his eyes and turned away as he landed on my thighs. "Put on your clothes immediately." Why didn't I make a joke? "Do you not find what you see impressive? I am your father." He said, his mouth clenched. "You didn't ask the question." I sat on his lap and he released me, and it was only the beginning. It hasn't been touched since that day. However, suddenly everything changed. His eyes showed it to me. A thirst he was no longer able to hide. He ran from the room. Electricity crackled in the quiet. 3 days later it took place. Mom is gone once more. Barefoot in the kitchen, making a midnight snack while dancing to music, Dad entered. Wearing his robe, he was awake. "You must go to bed," he replied. "You need to have gotten closer to him." I did not move. He kissed me, and we held one other's gaze. It was uncomfortable. I'm not sure if it's real. After that boundary was crossed, there was no way to go back. He led me to the couch in the living room that evening and claimed me. Definitely not his woman or daughter. We said nothing about it the next morning. We looked at each other. We are experiencing a mixture of embarrassment and exhilaration. I assumed that was where it would end. Just one awful mistake, but it didn't, so we jumped in. We made a mistake as the waves pulled us down. Twisted, we were unable to stop. I was genuinely reluctant to. Nothing else matters once you've enjoyed the forbidden. Everything was turned upside down on that first night with Dad. It isn't available. It is inside of us. We went too far, and rather than backing off, I woke up the following morning cradled in his arms as we pushed forth. The warmth of his breath against my neck, there were no words, and quiet. No embarrassing excuses. A storm is building and won't go away. Just before sunrise, I went back to my room. Mom was still asleep. I smiled as I hurriedly combed my hair in front of the mirror. There is no indication of life here, no guilt. I felt amazing and unstoppable. Men who are admired are drawn to things that make them feel passionate. His dad, I made him feel something that his mother hadn't in years. It started to happen more often. Late at night, I would sneak into his room. If she was at home or not, there was quiet between us. It wasn't necessary. He had given up. He is now mine. I knew just how to hold on to him. I would wear his favorite hues. Prepare meals for him while Mom was busy. I find his ridiculous jokes hilarious. Pretend to be interested in my phone while perched on his lap. I put a hickey on his neck once. He applied a lot of makeup in an attempt to conceal it from his mother. However, she saw that. He said it was a curling iron burn. She had faith in him. I could see the bewilderment in her eyes, even though she always trusted him. She gave him an electrifying look as he flinched at my jokes. When he brought out a chair for me, she gave me a fierce look. It was difficult to leave her standing. She could feel the shift. She was unaware of the whole depth of it. One night I went all out, but we didn't. Mom was upstairs having a lengthy phone conversation. In the living room, I sprang onto Dad's lap, muttering absurd secrets into his ear. "Stop," he said. He said it was dangerous. I still gave him a kiss. He returned my kiss, and all of a sudden, in the exact home where I once pleaded for bedtime stories while playing with dolls, I had crossed a line that I would never be able to get back, and begged for stories to read before bed. As though he were my lover, I gave my father a kiss. I heard Mom's footsteps immediately. I sprang to my feet and hurried into the corridor. He straightened his clothes and fixed his hair for days. After a second, she exploded. She seemed to feel the truth as her gaze darted between us, but was at a loss for words. She simply hit the kitchen without saying anything. We almost got caught. However, the thrill just made us want more. It was no longer just lust. A twisted paradise, a secret realm. Let's meet in the garage just for us. His workstation is the laundry room. Mom was busy fixing the supper when I dragged him into the pantry. Ottoline's was only 5 minutes. A sly grin, we fed each other's appetites as junkies. I sensed him getting deeper and deeper. His messages grew more audacious. His gaze lingered. I found a new necklace on my bed one day. No note, no justification. I looked amazing at dinner with a modest gift. Mom adored it. Dad almost gulped down his drink. I smiled before cracks started to show. He asked queries. After their evening together, he laid in bed and gazed at the ceiling. "What's the strategy?" he asked, and I simply shrugged. "Having a great time together." "This is incorrect, Celeste." He simply couldn't stop. He would occasionally look at me. His eyes were filled with pain, as though he regretted ever giving in. I was aware of the pain. It was just hunger, not guilt. He gave it his best. He wanted me badly. How about me? I was surfing the control wave. We let our guard down, which is nasty. I put his shirt on for breakfast. And for a whole minute, Mom's eyes were fixed on me. It originated in the washing basket. She was silent, I said. Yet her mind was racing, as I could tell. She started watching us more closely. She cancels her yoga courses and stops going on regular excursions. Cancelled weekend getaway. She followed us like we were strangers. Wearing the faces of her relatives, the era then occurred. Sunday has come. I just got back from the grocery with my dad. Laughing at a dumb joke I made in the car, I instantly took his hand because it felt so familiar. Mom caught it because it was just too soft. She hesitated before answering. She only noted that I knew and she knew. Dad barged into my room that night. He never touched me and remained completely clothed. His face was pale as he perched on the side of my bed. She's starting to mistrust herself. He said that I remained mute. This cannot continue forever. I stopped talking because I was afraid. "Yes," he muttered. I leaned down and touched his knee with my fingertips. Put aside, he gave me a quick look. The quiet between us grew more intense. His expression conveyed the conflict between his former self and who I had made him, yet he spent the night in my chamber. I recognized then that he had already made up his mind. Mom may have sensed the impending storm. Perhaps she saw the warning signals, heard the rumors, and felt the treachery in the atmosphere. But we had already finished hiding, and it was too late. We were engrossed in it. After Mom went, the quiet struck me like a freight train. There are no voice calls coming from the kitchen, so silence rules. Her wine glass did not clink. After supper there was stillness, and we were left to confront the reality. Dad didn't say anything for days and didn't even touch his dinner. He moved like a ghost through the house. He seemed unfamiliar with the walls. Now that I had done it, I felt free. When she departed, I believed it validated my theory. Thought I had prevailed, but her quiet. It was heavier than I had anticipated. I got what I want. Nobody remained to stop me. This house has always revolved around me. I was the monarch. Currently, the excitement of controlling a broken country gradually fades. I concentrated on bringing him back into our rhythm. Throughout the first week. I would wear his favorite scent, stretch my robe a little wider. I put my hand on his shoulder as I passed by. He hardly gave me a glance. He would spend hours sitting in the living room, obsessed with ancient family pictures, as though they may awaken and lead him. "Why did you have a lengthy face one night?" I questioned him as I leaned in, only sporting a tank top and lace underwear. "Isn't her departure just what you desired?" No answer, I persisted. "She didn't know you, not the way I do," and he turned to face me at last. His eyes were vacant. For the first time, that is the problem. I couldn't find the right words. "I broke my wife," he said. "I let you continue after I lost control. You were invincible." "No," he responded quietly. "I should truly regret that now and have a crack form inside of me." I said sharply, "She's gone, but I'm still here." He looked away as I walked up to him, held his face in my palms. "You choose this father. I was weak when you chose me." He muttered that you adored it. My wrists were seized by his hands, not hard, just steady. "This isn't love," he said. I never made eye contact with him. What was it then? I'm lost. He broke free. A suitcase was waiting for me at the door the next morning. He was fully loaded. I was terrified about what to do next. My heart was pounding as I stood in the doorway, donning his sweatshirt. He said, "I'm getting help. I've been speaking with a therapist. I am embarking on a retreat. Let's see what's in it for me." He looked at me with a fresh, startling grief in his eyes. "Celeste, you also require assistance. Above and above what I can provide, maybe more than anybody else." Anger erupted under my flesh. "You're actually simply leaving after everything. My wife has already passed away. I can't lose myself either," he replied. And he was gone in an instant. I was left alone as the door banged shut. Totally alone, and not at all like a mother. Not at all Dad, a house full of secrets and echoes, unspoken and undisturbed. Time passed quickly. Weeks passed, and I phoned him. No answer. I contacted Mom Zero Zip. The home was cool, the corners were heaped high with dust. I stopped wearing perfume and stopped combing my hair. On other mornings, I hardly got out of bed. I thought I could handle it. Even though I didn't need them, I did. Despite my power and all my games, I had no one to play with and was still just a girl. One afternoon, in the drawer next to Dad's bed, I discovered a picture. We enjoyed the summer warmth as we stood by the lake. Dad's back is where Mom's hand lays. I encircled them both with my arms. We appeared ecstatic. Finished, I looked at it carefully. I ripped it in too. No tears fell, and no tears were shed here. But I sensed an inward fissure, a quiet pause that reflected suffering but would not heal. "The house is still mine after several months." Simply said, it doesn't feel familiar. No longer. A shell tormented by a painful history, Dad sent postcards from the treatment facility, but Mum never got back. They are polite and short. Distant. He signs them as Dorian now instead of Dad. He had been gone for a very long time. I frequently end up in the den, the site where it all began. Where I originally straddled him, I trail my fingertips across the couch. Where I initially revealed truths that a daughter should never divulge. Would he have to stop if I stopped? But then I understood that I didn't want to give up. Nor did he. We both have to deal with that truth. Simply paint over the stained wall. The deterioration underneath continues to spread. How about this house? It could last. However, it will never be pristine again. We set a family on fire, and now smoke is all around us. The day Mom had her breakdown was a calm day, far too silent, and it began like every other morning. Through the windows, sunshine streams in. Outside, birds were chirping, blissfully oblivious to the deterioration that exists within our house. In a silky robe, I slid down. Dad was already in the kitchen making coffee while humming a tune. As I entered, he looked up, eyes flitting across me with that familiar expression. Desire and guilt clash. However, something was clearly wrong. Mom wasn't in her regular recliner. Her coffee cup was still empty. There is no trace of her aroma in the air. I couldn't care less, so I didn't ask. The house seemed to belong to me already. I slid past my father's fingers and said, "Good morning." He slid over his back and took his time answering. "Next, Celeste. This must stop now." I stop, blink, and look at him. "Why not?" She heard him say it quietly. "Or I can feel that she's almost there." "Okay," I laughed quietly. "She lacks strength. She isn't doing anything." He regarded me as though I were a total stranger, totally chilling. However, he remained still when I leaned in to give him a gentle kiss. But he returned the kiss. He always kissed me back after that. I had no idea that my mother had been up for hours simply upstairs. She overheard us last night, and I was unaware of it. Outside her door, the floors made a gentle creaking sound. I could hear muted whispering. Those chuckles were followed by a shout of betrayal. She had been seeing the signal for weeks. However, she realized now that she had remained up till midday. She had a ghostly white face. It seemed as though all of the color was gone. She sat down on the couch and avoided looking at me. Her hands were clasped in her lap. I remained composed as I stood at the doorway. Confident, "Hello, Mother. Everything is okay. Sit down," she muttered, and I glanced at Dad. He trembled in his hand as he stood still behind her coffee mug. "Come on, Celeste." I walked confidently into the room and sat down opposite her. The rope slightly slid off my shoulder when I crossed my legs. She maintained a steady look. I long for the truth since she saw through me at everything. I wasn't acting as though I didn't comprehend the reality. I brought it up to gauge the situation. A narrow line appeared between her lips. Quit acting as though you don't know. You believe that I haven't spotted you staring at him. I've seen the stains on your bedding and his eyes are electrifying. I can still smell it in my bed. Dad moved in and I'm no fool. Vera's silence was abrupt. Her voice was trembling. Her gaze returned to mine. How are you, Celeste? Are you and your father sharing a bed? A cold blew across the atmosphere. Dad dropped the cup from his grasp. It fell to the ground. Splashes of hot coffee hit the tiles. Everyone remained still, so I cocked my head. Want me to lie? She shrank away. That was the only response required. The quiet continued interminably. Dad fell back in the chair. Mom simply gaped, completely exhausted. How about me? I maintained my focus. How might you accomplish that? Finally, she said, he's your dad. Not at all, I said in a cold voice. You just lost the spark to keep him interested even though he's your guy. She gave me a difficult blow. Despite my face burning, I refused to back down. I grinned and understood. I muttered, her eyes were filled with tears, revealing your inner personality. She turned to face her father. How long did he remain silent for? What is the duration? She gave a shrill scream. His face was buried in his hands, breaking down like paper months as though he had hit her. She gasped and staggered back. I gave you all I had. She sobbed. This family is now yours. This location? You ruined it. I'm sorry. He whispered. You went forward nonetheless, and she screamed loudly. Next to her, she looked at us as her voice cracked. Wide-eyed as though we were unidentifiable creatures, she started laughing. A shivering, broken chuckle. She brushed away her tears and decided it was time to contact the police. I will defeat both of you. Cool as ice, no chance, I said. You have far too much love for him. What about me? You were never able to fully dominate me. Did you? That broke her and she became quiet. She moved like a ghost upstairs. An hour later, she came back with 2 luggage in tow. Dad leaped up, confused Vera. She gave him one last look. She glanced at me and said, your decision is made. She had dead eyes and said, you're not my kid. She rushed in the front door and suddenly she disappeared, so stay calm. No throwing anything around. Only stillness and the gravity of our actions, no last-minute demands. Dad seemed to stand still for a long time. At last he muttered, this isn't what I wanted. His speech seemed empty as if he were only expressing his thoughts aloud. However, neither of us had taken action while we could. However, you didn't stop it either. I said, he looked at me and I saw it missed opportunities. Shame something is rupturing from the inside out, but he hasn't asked me to depart yet. He hasn't announced that it's finished yet. We held firm after destroying her. Have you ever been in a similar circumstance? I understand that your mind is buzzing with potential solutions. What did you do? Like and subscribe. Then press the alert button for more fascinating tales like this one.